We've got Rob Davis. He's the founder of Delta V Esports, which is an incubator and training center for esports located in Fort Worth that aims to ignite the passion for gaming. So he's going to talk about that this morning. Rob, it's all you. Thank you so much for being here.
It's all me. Thank you. It's great to be here. I enjoy these a lot. I'll tell you that probably the biggest and most fun thing for me of any of these when I do podcasts or interviews is a Q&A session. There's a lot of things I can talk about, but hopefully people have questions and we can get very specific. Let me just get into a couple of things in the content and things that I put out. I get really common questions all the time. And the common questions are typically in two parts. One, are there really opportunities for careers in gaming and esports? And then two, how do I access those? So the first question in most of my content, you'll hear me constantly talk about the fact that the opportunities are absolutely real. And I'll talk about some of those and what those are. And hold on a second, I'm getting a call. I don't want that. And what do you do and how do you access those? So let me just speak in broad terms to begin with. And the broad terms are this: I separate gaming from esports. Now, the two of those are connected, but the difference being that esports cannot stand alone without gaming, but gaming can stand alone without esports. And I also, you'll hear me speak about gaming and esports, not in the sense of an industry, because I think that's really boring. I think that too many times it's easy to set aside the culture of gaming and its influence in esports and focus more on what's happened so far in the world of esports specifically. And that is all the investment money that pours into the top 1%. And I'm grateful that it does, but let's get back to this kind of first concept. The separation between gaming and esports is this. There are many, many games. Something, I think it's around 53% of the world's population play video games. So you're talking of around 8 billion people in the country, or I mean, in the world, play video, or of that 8 billion, 53% of them play video games. Now, most of those are mobile games, and there are a lot of different versions. But the point is that gaming is obviously not going away. And the gamification of experiences from education to technical skills to surgery to all kinds of things is doing nothing but advancing. And so that's a complete industry that does include video games, but gaming in itself has driven so much technological advancement that clearly there are massive opportunities in that arena of the world. Esports is the competitive nature and competitive side of gaming. And that I classify as sports entertainment. It's not any different on the surface than going to a Rangers game or the NFL or the National Hockey League or World Soccer at the World Cup or anything like that. That takes a sport, that takes an activity and simply makes it competitive. And so the separation between the two, you obviously cannot have esports without gaming, but again, you can have gaming without esports. So when people ask me, are there opportunities? There's no question that there are opportunities in both, and there are significant opportunities. There are many people that agree with statements that I've made that esports and gaming is going to be, I'll come back to this one time, the word industry, is going to be one of the leading, if not the biggest industries in the world because of its reach into so many other things. But esports in particular is just different. Right now, esports if you're in the world or interested in being in the world of esports, it's still a very niche kind of a group of people. To us, it's the world, right? If you're in it, it's like, oh, it's the best thing, it's the biggest thing. But in context of other things in the world, whatever measure you use, esports is still incredibly small and incredibly new. Now, it gets a lot of attention because of the things in competition, like the prize pools that are available. A game called Dota 2, which is very, very big in Asia, has a prize pool, I think this year for the championship of $34 million. And so you're talking about legitimacy in the sense that there is so much money available at those levels. The difficulty is, and let me, the other side of that, when I talk about the 1% of money going into esports and why it's still so small, you may have, Ray Davis just built, the city of Arlington just built the Globe Life Field, and that was, I think, about $1 billion stadium. The Esports Stadium Arlington, where I headquarter at, was a $15 million renovation of that 100,000 square feet. And even then, it's still considered the largest dedicated esports arena in North America. Now, a lot of events happen at other places, Staples Center in Los Angeles, or Madison Square Garden, or even one of the big tournaments 2 years ago was at the Nest in China. But you can see that in terms of the scope of sports entertainment, it's still a very, very small element. But that being said, it is growing like crazy. Now, the COVID restrictions placed worldwide put a big hit on live events. We don't have Twitch cons and Comic Cons and major in-person tournaments, and that's changing. But that's going to be a time before we really full force come back into those. I don't expect to see anything with those until next year. And I know the stadium, the Esports Stadium Arlington staff are working very hard to bring events back, and they are coming back slowly. But let's get back to the questions, and people talk about, one, is it an opportunity? It 100% is. I mean, there's so many people that are making a career currently in esports and in gaming. I mean, there are right now, last time I looked, over 900 colleges and universities that have some form of esports team, esports development pathway, or education pathway. There's only one or two universities I'm aware of that actually have esports degrees, true esports degrees. But coming back from the educational piece, there are still graphic design, there are artists needed, there are coders needed, there are all of these elements in the game developers. This summer, starting here in another month or so, I'll be traveling around the country, and then we're going to go international for a year, going to all of these developers and all of these game teams and all these places to talk more about, expose, meet with opportunities that exist in esports. But on the gaming side, it's very robust. There are a lot of opportunities, again, coding and artistic design and videography that exists. Esports is slowed somewhat because of COVID, but so many content creators have proven that you can make money using video games, whether you're a streamer, whether you're a vlogger, whether you do reviews, or you're a news organization. The opportunities are there, and they're doing nothing but growing. Now, the bigger question is, yes, the opportunities are there, but the bigger question is, how do I access them? And I'll give you a perfect example. Again, I'm headquartered at the Esports Stadium Arlington, and I've had, I think, probably 6 or 8 people. I have an event going on there tomorrow, a content creator event. And several of the people that have attended there, and several people that I work with in different ways, have begun volunteering to event training at the stadium. So if someone says, how do I get involved? Well, I just had another young man come in yesterday and meet with me. He'll be at the event tomorrow. He's asking the same question: how do I get involved in esports? And he has a background in photography and videography, or wants to have more in videography. And I said, hey, let's introduce you to the production manager of the studio, which is a guy that I recommended come in, a very knowledgeable guy. And they hired him. And now he's going to be going in Sunday, so it'll be at my event tomorrow. He'll be going in Sunday to volunteer and start showing what he can do. And now he has a foot in the door. The rest of it is up to him as to how he can demonstrate his skill set, and does it fit with what they need. So the entry is no different than it is like in a lot of other industries. It's a matter of kind of forcing your foot in, making connections, getting out there, and still being able to say, hey, I'm available. I'd like to be able to do this. So when I look at the industry, again, I said the industry word. I'm not going to say the industry. Let me get back to that point where I say the industry. Gaming is very unique and very different than other sports entertainment kinds of areas. And what I mean by that is gaming. So I've been a gamer since 1978. And I had my first gaming station that my uncle got me, which was an Atari for home TV system that played Pong. And I would just do that for hours and hours and hours. I was 15. And ever since then, I've had every console I've played. You know, I mean, I think in college, I think we did like a 36-hour nonstop Doom tournament with with a buddy of mine in college. I mean, I just couldn't get it up. Gaming at arcades, gaming on PC, gaming on all of it has been a big part of my life. I even did a piece of content on TikTok recently where I said my 6 kids, my wife and I have been married for 32 years, and we've raised 6 kids together, and our kids have all grown up playing video games as part of what we do. Now we've gone, you know, we went camping and fishing and traveled and did other things and traditional sports, but gaming was always a part of it. And they know that. And all but one of my children, my oldest daughter is married with children, all of them still game, and we still game together oftentimes. So it's been a very integral part of their growing up in our family. But getting back to that culture side of it and what's different compared to other industries is that gaming has, up until very recently, always been a kick to the curb, you know, an underground. Like I grew up skating and surfing, and I was on a BMX trick team, and that was the same kind of thing. It was always very counterculture. But gaming, because it was so easy to do for many families and many people in the world, even till today, it becomes a point of contention. It just seems like it's a waste of time. It'll never be anything. And so the culture around it has always been, those of us that love to game understand how fun it is, and the communities now that we can engage online are so strong, and the connections we make. It's still kind of counterculture. And in the US, we're probably in last place in the world of acceptance of gaming as a career opportunity, and as, you know, and even a sport as in esports. Again, that is changing very quickly. But all of that being said, one of the things for me as we talk about and help people build opportunities and get to opportunities is to understand that the community comes first. The way that we approach our interactions with each other is very unique. The way that we, as an example, the very first interaction I had with TCC was at an event that it was Street Fighter and Rocket League, I think. But I walked in and I'm meeting the staff and people there, and I made a point. I said, if you look at all of the people here that are here right now, we don't care what size you are. We don't care what color you are. We don't care if you're male or, we don't care about anything except the fact that we all love those games. And that's a very unique culture. It's a culture that I am hyper active in protecting, because if we protect that culture, then the opportunities simply begin. There it is, games for change. Yep, it's where I meant Q. It's, if we protect that culture, then every opportunity grows with that culture. If I have been in many, I got pretty involved in Clubhouse. If you've been on the Clubhouse app, it has a lot of great potential. I got bored very quickly because and I was talking with some very influential people in the world of gaming and esports, and people that would invite me up on stage in the app, if you know how the app works, and I'd be able to share my commentary. But a lot of the discussions were less about the culture and what really brings and drives the power of gaming and esports, and more about the industry and investment and different things. And it just, to be honest, it just got really boring. So I haven't been in a lot of those conversations, because at a grassroots level, it is about the people. It is about those of us that have a deep passion. I'll give you another example. I went into a Walmart, and I stopped at the game section, and I did a short video there. I put it on TikTok. It has almost 900,000 views, because all I said was, how many of us can go into a Walmart and not stop at the gaming section, right? And so many people, like, I remember my neck hurting playing there when my mom was shopping or whatever. It's a connection that we have that's universal. It doesn't matter if you're athletic, artistic, not artistic, it doesn't matter. It's a very important point to understand that culture and that community has to be protected, and it's what draws us all together. Now, on the other side of that, and I don't know if I can see, I can turn my phone. I don't see questions. So if I'm missing questions, or if I don't know how we get that on the screen, I don't remember.
I can let you know there's a question. Andrew asks, I hear people all the time say that they can't believe how much money young people are making just for playing video games. I wondered, what is the way you would address people who make comments like that?
It's a great comment, because it is kind of absurd. So, and that's a great question. And let me talk to that, because that speaks to the community. It speaks to the reality of the opportunities. So I'll be 58 next month. So I'm a true baby boomer. I am a boomer. I was born in that era. And my generation did not grow up around the experience of being able to access that kind of income potential as easily as it can be accessed today. Now, there are a lot of people, you could start a company back, and I've had many companies, many businesses over the years. But what happens now is that gaming has become a valuation proposition. Okay, what that means is that the struggle for people understanding how much money can be made in gaming and esports comes down to how you value the activity. And Americans in general don't value the activity, especially my generation, don't value the activity as being beneficial. But here's why. They can't get their heads around it. People that don't understand how Ninja could sign a $60 million contract with Mixer when he went over, which is what the reported amount was, or the fact that the year when he announced it in 2000, I think he did interviews, the year of 2018, I think it was, he made $6.5 or $4.5 million. It's very difficult for people to get their heads around that kind of money for someone that is part of a gaming world, when all they've ever viewed gaming as is a point of contention. It's a waste of time. You spend too much time, that you do too much. But that being said, here's the reason that people can't get their heads around it. There's no evidence of, let me say it, for example, let me put it this way. If you have a career as a graphic artist, okay, and you say, someone says, how did you become a graphic artist? I went through this process. I had these grades in school. I went to this art school. I got this degree. I have these jobs. And in most cases, you can ask about anyone. Have you ever met anyone that's been a graphic artist? Do you personally know anyone that does it? Or you could get very general. Do you know anyone that ever had an art or an arts bachelor in arts degree? And almost everyone actually knows someone personally that has experienced or gone down that pathway. If you say to someone, do you actually know a single person that has made a career level income playing or in the gaming industry? Almost no one knows anyone personally. Now, they'll hear of people, but that's not tangible. That's not real, in the sense that, well, that's great, but that's kind of an outlier. And that's what makes it very difficult. So when people look at someone and they say, there's a streamer named Nick Merckx. I think he's one of the top subscribed streamers on Twitch right now. And I think the last time I looked, he makes somewhere in the $250,000 a month range from being a streamer. And that's just, it's an intangible concept, because mom or dad or brother or sister or member of society on average doesn't know a single person personally that they could go to and say, yeah, that person makes a full-time living. So therefore, it just seems like vapor. It just seems like, well, that's just, it's a pipe dream. It's like saying that, of course, you can make money, acting even still goes through that. Of course, you can make money in acting. We know it because there are people that make money in acting. But there are so few people that personally know an actor that did it. It just becomes, we like to hold on to things that we can measure and quantify and be able to predict, like, go to school, get a degree, get a job, or go to this trade school, or learn this skill, because I know people have done it, be a plumber, be an electrician. So gaming runs in a very odd situation because so few people actually know people that make money in it. I hope that answers the question. Was there another question? I saw something else pop up. Just let me know.
That was an awesome answer. As an artist, I get asked all the time, how do you make money? And I can entirely relate to that. Maria asks, what would you say to the people that say video games can damage people's lives because sometimes some people are just on games and they don't socialize?
Yeah, so that is a great question. And I answer it in two ways. Number one, again, as a father who has raised 6 kids with my wife, interaction and their social development and all that through the years has always been a very important aspect to us as parents raising kids. But I would say that what's changed dramatically, let's call it in the last 10 years, is I find that a lot of the youth and a lot of people that I work with in gaming and esports now are more connected than they've ever been. Now, Again, it comes to a generational societal perception of what connection is. Is there anything that replaces face-to-face physical connection? Of course not, because there's just something that's very different and unique about that. However, I would venture to say that my kids, through digital means, gaming included, have interaction on a daily basis with more people than they do if they didn't have it. So there's that side of that. The other side that becomes problematic, however, is that when the perception is that you need, because here's what you're going to hear: go outside, go with some friends, go play a ball, go fishing, whatever, do something like that. And while that is, there's tremendous value in all of that, for a lot of people, there are, if we just talked about one segment of society being those that are very introverted and very shy, I have found so many people that are so comfortable interacting in an online way on, interactive games, interactive communities, where they would never be that way out in society, for whatever struggles they have with that. So there are tremendous benefits to this. There are risks, obviously, but let me answer another side of that, because I think this is really important. There's also the question that gets raised in that is, how much time is too much time to spend in gaming, online communication, all of that. That's a, as a parent, as a member of society, how much time is too much time? And I make it really simple. I wrote out a formula and I said, look, everyone has 168 hours in a given week. We all have the same amount, no more, no less. And so what I do, I said, if you want the support of people around you in your activities in gaming and esports, take that number, 168, and with that number, subtract two numbers that you add together. The first one is R, and then you add the number E. R is required. Sit down with your family and friends and people and say, okay, how many hours are required in a week for me to go to work, go to school, eat, travel, whatever it is? What are the requirements that I have? Put that number in those brackets, and then go to E. What hours are expected? You want me to be with you on a Friday night for date night or family dinner, or I'm part of a social group and they need my help at times, whatever. Add those 2 hours up, or those two numbers up. The R that's required, the E that's expected, and subtract it from 168. That subtraction from 168 leaves you with A, and that's your availability. Those are the hours that you have now to pursue an opportunity, a career, or some desire in gaming and esports, or simply just engage in a community. And if everyone is on board with that, if that number is 2 hours a week, then that's what you have. If that hour is 40 hours, or that number is 40 hours a week, then that's what you have. So when you combine those two things, I think acceptance of the activity and the opportunity to pursue something is much easier, much more easily done, because now everyone understands that you have a system and a plan in place that says, yes, I'm going to meet my requirements. I'm going to be a good member of society, and I'm going to do the things that I need to do so that I can progress in my life. I'm going to meet the expectations of people that they would like me to do. But these hours, if I have these 10 hours in a week and we've all agreed, then these are my hours and I get to do with them what I want in this industry. And I find that those two things solve so many of the problems in so many of the issues, in one, the perceptive, benefits of doing it. And then two, the fact that you're not neglecting other things, because that really in the end is the biggest problem. Does that answer the question? I hope that answers the question.
I mean, he answered it for me. And as you and I aren't too far apart from being around the same age. And I think when I hear that response or that question from Maria, that sounds like my parents saying, get outside, get in the sun. And I think a lot of older folks that are not gaming, and I hate to say it that way, but like my parents, your parents would think, yeah, if you're playing Pong for 12 hours a day, you're not interacting with anyone. But games have evolved so much that they're their own social bubble now. And so that, in a sense, does, to a degree, resolve that social component. Thanks, Jeanette, old fogies.
Hey, listen, I 100%, anyone can call me. I've been called in content that I produce. Hey, boomer. Hey, old guy. Hey, you know what? I am 100%. I've always wanted to be old.
You're the
So
coolest
I've always
boomer out there. I mean, let's be honest. Like,
look, I'm kind of a unicorn. I get it, but I've always looked forward to being 60 to 80. You can ask anyone I grew up with. I mean, I've always wanted to be older. So I am 100% okay with someone challenged me and said, how do you feel about being so old? Like kind of trying to troll me a little bit and something. I said, are you kidding me? I'm super excited about it, because here's the other side of it. And that goes back to the community that we talk about and the opportunities in this community. It's universal. It's across an entire board of age, of demographic, of social economic status. None of it matters. What matters is that you have a deep passion for it. You're respectful in it. And let me kind of branch into one thing here really quick that I think is also very important. And that is one of the things when I started Delta V Esports, and even on this world tour that we're about to launch, starting in the US and then going international, is that there is something that does have to happen in terms of a career spectrum. And that is that we have to begin to treat this more professionally. In Delta V, on my Twitch stream, in my content, in activities that we participate in, we have a very strict code of content or conduct. And that code of conduct we follow very, we adhere to it not because I want to be, I mean, I think people should be family friendly anyway, but if you want to be on a stream or do content that's not family friendly, that's completely your right. My contention is that the industry already has a reputation. Gaming and esports already have a reputation for being combative, abrasive, harsh. And I'm simply saying, let's advance the level of professionalism in our conduct and behavior, because that allows us to attract larger sponsors, more family friendly or more corporate kinds of brands that don't want to interact and engage in those kinds of things. For example, I would tell people that if LeBron James were going to go do a press conference, he doesn't get on the press conference and just drop F-bombs and just be vulgar and be terrible and trash talk. So it's a matter of respect and professionalism that we're working very hard to bring back as well. And so that also in turn helps with a lot of the toxicity and the other things that are easy to exist. Because the biggest problem in that lack of professionalism, that it's easy to be a keyboard warrior. It's easy. So as an example, I do some work with quite a bit of work with a Discord group called Vixen Gamers and their founders. And it's incredibly unfortunate in the world of gaming and esports, where women they're trolled and attacked in a whole nother level than just guys trash talking each other playing. And there's so much evidence of it. And that's why they created Vixen Gamers as a community. That needs to go away. Will it ever always go away? Of course not. But it needs to, people tend to be a lot more brave, as everyone knows, behind a screen, and they can be anonymous and it's easy to troll. But setting all of that aside, all we have to do is incrementally advance our level of respect and professionalism and interaction, because we already have the base of a community where we're all accepting of each other. I remember being a competitive street skater at a time when it was completely underground. And then X Games came out years later. And I was so excited to see X Games come into the arena when the rest of much of the culture was anti-X Games, because, well, they're going to make it corporate and it's going to ruin it. And my first thought was, no, it's going to bring money in. It's going to allow us to actually be able to earn an income in something that we love. And much of that is exactly what's happening in gaming and esports. But that being said, we have a responsibility to begin to behave professionally to further encourage those people, sponsors and different people that want to be involved. Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Okay, how are we doing on time? Other questions?
I see lots of comments. I'm trying to, let's see. I played Halo back in the day on the MLG circuit and had 2 female teammates, and guys did not like losing to female players.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Still
Yeah,
don't.
I don't. They still don't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They still don't. And I'm okay with that. But it's, I mean, in the sense that no one likes to. I'm a fiercely competitive person. But when I play with female gamers, and I play with quite a few, there's a number of them from the Vixen gamer community that we play with on our teams. And it's interesting because I never consider them female players. I consider them players, and most of them are better than I am. And so it's not even like it's just a fact. They're just players. They're just gamers. but that being said, it is what I'm very cautious of in as opportunities for careers and part-time, full-time, legacy income, whatever in gaming and esports. One of the things I'm very concerned about is the bringing in of platforms and discussions that don't need to exist in the world of gaming and esports. People want to begin to bring social and economic and race issues into gaming and try to start the split. And I simply say, I don't view anyone that I engage with in this industry, in this community, as anything other than a gamer. And so I'm very protective of trying to make sure that we are respectful. I'm just telling you, I was shocked when the founders of Vixen Gamers shared with me the commentary that they get. I know that stuff is happening. I didn't know to that level, but is Q asking a question?
He is. He says that it might soon be irrelevant, but how has COVID affected esports? What steps has the esports industry taken to mitigate its effects and protect players? And what can we as society or educational institutions, corporations, etc., learn from what esports has done?
That's a multi-layered question or a multi-layered answer. It's a great question because we do face it. I would say on the very surface, let me just give you an at-home example. The facility that I started Delta V Esports in, not far from my house here, we were 2 weeks from opening the doors to the public to be able to bring in and start training and working on our programs when COVID hit. So I never got to open my doors to the public. And then it's been 2 or 3 months now, I was asked to move my operations, have an opportunity to move my operations and headquarter them at the Esports Stadium, Arlington. COVID is, I want to be cautious in how I talk about COVID, in the sense that I don't want to make any statement on, any position I have on how we're addressing it. I'll simply explain to you things that I see going on. COVID was a crushing blow to esports. Not crushing, I shouldn't say that. It was a knockdown blow to esports that it's slowly recovering from, in the sense that part of what made esports and gaming so attractive in the advance of esports as a sport, as a thing, was our ability to come together in events. And if we couldn't even come physically together in the events, it was exciting to watch a live stream or a video of the stadium all lit up and confetti and all the people and colors and all of that. Well, that all went away. And the adjustment has still not really been incredibly effective, because all that happened is that teams, so for example, I did a piece of content on TikTok earlier this week, and I was at the GameStop Performance Center in Frisco, where Complexity, an esports team, trains, which is right across the street from the Ford Center, where the Cowboys, it's their Cowboys practice center. Well, the Complexity GameStop Performance Complexity Center is closed. So on one hand, it's a benefit because it saves cost. All the players now are training remotely from their houses, and they're still competing, and tournaments are still going on. But I'll tell you that it's had a major, what's the right word? Enthusiasm hit, attention hit, and it's definitely financially hurt the industry. Now, esports, again, is a very small percentage of gaming. So gaming developers, Epic and Activision, and a lot of these popular game developers are still making billions. People are playing more and more. Twitch streamers are growing more. The big ones are growing more. More and more people are trying things. But in terms of a lot of the enthusiasm, it has definitely dropped. People like to gather, and we like to gather in events that are very exciting, and competitive events are one of the most exciting things to be a part of. Now, addressing, how is that going to change, and how can people, deal with it? I don't have the answers as to when. I can tell you that the Esports Stadium Arlington staff there, with the lifting of the restrictions, has moved, is opening things up pretty well. Now they're working with the city of Arlington. I'm not involved in those things. I just know that they're doing the best that they can, taking probably a more aggressive approach to try to get events and things back in. I don't think big events are going to return. I'm talking big events like DreamHack or TwitchCon or Comic-Con or big championships. I really don't see those coming back, until probably late this year, if not until next year. So that kind of plays into, and I think that's just the same for a lot of, for colleges, for campuses that have esports programs, that it's incredibly missed. And I think that there's a hesitation for a lot of reasons. One, people do want to be prudent. They do want to be safe. But I think even those that say, hey, I think we can still do this, run the risk of bad PR or run the risk of potential liability in some way. And they just don't want to deal with it, especially since esports is such a small portion of the revenue being generated in the gaming industry. It will definitely 100% come back because that's who we are as a culture. I mean, the Super Bowl had 25,000 people. I didn't watch it, but I think it had 25,000 people in attendance. We want to do that. And so I think everyone right now is waiting for someone to pull the trigger. It's part of the reason that starting next month, I'm going to be on this national tour. I'm going to go to places all over the country. I'm going to go to places. Then once we finish the country tour, I'm going to be going to developers, to esports teams, we're doing pop-up creator events. I'm going to meet people. We're going to do it safely. We're going to follow all the protocols and do it as best we can properly that way. But I feel like we need to re-engage the enthusiasm, reconnect with what's happening with the people, as many people and things and events and options as we can find, so that the industry can start to look at it and understand that, hey, we know people really want this back, and kind of be a boots on the ground piece of it. But I think it's just a matter of time. I think some big event organizer is going to come to the Esports Stadium, Arlington, or somewhere and say, hey, we're just going to do it. Even at the stadium last week or the week before, they had just like the Texas High School Coaches Association, a big event. There were several hundred people there, and Matthew McConaughey spoke via Zoom. So it's been a blow. It's been a blow financially, but by the same token, I think more importantly, it's been a blow enthusiastically to the community. We just really, really miss those things. So it's a great question. It's hard to know when it'll come back.
Great. That was a great way to sum up Dr. Q's question. I don't know.
See what a good moderator Janae is. She knew as I paused there that she was to come back in and say something.
It's my job. I'm seeing lots of great comments in general. Tracy says, my partner says he can't wait until his chronological age matches his grumpy old man persona in regards to the boomer gamer community. so
it will happen. One thing we're guaranteed of, time's going to keep moving forward.
Ain't that the truth? But I don't see any actual other questions. I think we've hit everything, and everyone's, everything that's popped up so far have been really, really pertinent. There were some comments about people having a bigger ego behind a keyboard than they would have in person, and you touched on
100%.
You touched on that. Any other questions from the group while we have Rob here?
What is our timeline? Where are we at right now, Janae?
I think we have you from 9 to 10, I think, and right now we're at about 9:40, so we're doing plenty good.
And you can also unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you'd like to ask a question, or you could put it in the chat.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Let me, while people are thinking about questions, I'll pose a question out here, and let me know what you all think. I came up with this idea to do this. I'm calling it the Great American Esports Street Tour. And the intention is that we are going to start April 1st, which is actually my birthday, and then spend the next 3 to 5 months in the US. And then after that, especially hoping that travel restrictions are eased up a little bit, then we're going to go international. And I already have people all over the UK all over Europe. As a matter of fact, I have people in South Africa, I have people in Slovenia, Slovakia, Romania, that are interested in having me come there. My purpose for doing it, my question for the audience and the people here would be, what I plan to do is to make, so we have right now about 120 planned stops in the US. I'm going to add about another 150. And then we're going to have pop-up events where we can actually meet people, build content together, share our opinions. I'll do my street talk show on the street. I'll ask people questions, what their feelings are about gaming and esports opportunities, where they'd like to go. Try to get into as many places as we can, like Epic or Atari or Nintendo or 100 Thieves, and actually be able to bring you behind the scenes. Is that something that you feel like would be valuable for you to tune into in content? Because we'll be putting out 50 to 75 or 100 pieces of content a day in all kinds of formats. And then I think Q asked a question, but go ahead.
Just saying, you can give everything.
May I ask a question?
Go for it, Michael.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do like esports, like contests have anything in place to like prevent people who don't lose with, say, don't lose gracefully? Is there anything in place to stop them from like having a meltdown in like that contest setting?
That's a great question. In a competitive environment, and so yes, the answer is yes. On stage or in a competitive environment, there are very strict guidelines about people that lose control, right? They rage, they just kind of lose their minds because matter of fact, there was an Overwatch player a few months ago, maybe it was 6 months ago, that on stage at the end of a tournament game lost, and he lost his mind. I mean, I think he smashed his keyboard, and he was I can't remember if he was kicked off the team, but he was sidelined for a really long time. The other thing I've seen in terms of guidelines is that when someone does that, is that a team can be completely disqualified. So just like any, everyone has the responsibility in a competitive environment like that, like you're asking. The team coaches, the managers, the event coordinators all have a responsibility to make sure that everyone has a safe, enjoyable experience, because no one wants to see that, right? I mean, it just is, it doesn't help in any way. So yes, to answer your questions, they definitely have guidelines in place to prevent that. It's just harder to do when it's not in a controlled competitive environment.
Yeah.
You don't do that, do you?
No, I know I'm bad at games, so I don't get angry when I lose.
Good. It's competition is competition, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a very competitive person, and I can get very frustrated. But the one thing that I'm really, I've never really been a rage quitter. I mean, I've had my moments where I get really angry, but I think the real issue becomes in the environment, making sure you're aware that you're being angry or frustrated with a loss doesn't in a negative way affect anyone around you. It's okay to walk off stage and, I can't believe I lost that. Maybe you're yelling to yourself, but it's that professional behavior I was talking about.
I think
question.
No matter what, losing gracefully is a professional thing that everyone needs.
100%.
You can have your moment where you're screaming in the shower, but
100%.
You definitely don't want to do that in person, because that can affect your professional relationships, your employment opportunities, etc.
Yes. And that's why I say our code of conduct and us needing to elevate the professional behavior in esports is just that, is because we want sponsors, we want people to come in and know that we can behave professionally, even though we're fiercely competitive. It is, I did a TikTok video talking about our community. I play a lot of Warzone on stream. I'm streaming less now, getting ready for this tour, but I play primarily Warzone, though I play almost everything. And we have probably one of the most toxic free environments, and people come in and tell me that all the time. because we can be and I'm competitive, I want to win, but we can have a great experience without having to bring that into it. And that attracts other people and sponsors because they feel safe in their audiences, that they can put that content in front of it as they have a brand built through that attention.
That's a great point. That could affect sponsorship opportunities if you are streaming and you don't lose well.
100%.
Christina wants to know if you mind sharing your TikTok handle with us.
Easy. All of my socials are Street Taco Eater. So all one word, Street Taco Eater. Everything is under that. And so, yes, thank you for asking. I'll say something unless there's another question, but I want to make sure and get this point in, because this is one point that originally I meant to talk about. And that is that one of the biggest problems when people are looking for opportunities, financial or career opportunities in gaming and esports, the problem is this: they don't treat themselves, nor do they treat what they're doing as a business. And so here's what I mean. In my opinion, the commodity that we exchange, the number one most important thing we can do in our efforts in this digital world is to gain attention. Attention is the commodity. The more eyeballs that you have watching what you do, the more opportunity that follows, and the more opportunity that follows, the more money that comes with that opportunity. It's why someone like, if Ninja, love or hate Tyler Blevins as a streamer, he has millions of people that watch him, and that's why he got the opportunities. Now, if someone has no one watching, then no one comes in, no sponsors, no people, no opportunities. And the reason that oftentimes people have a difficult time in building that audience is in getting that attention is they don't treat what they do like a business. Like for tomorrow, I have this paid content creator event. It's to help people understand, number one, that building a brand in today's world to garner attention is the most important key. And then to create enough content on a daily basis to reinforce that brand in a business professional way is the only way that you can excel over time. And it is so there is methodologies to doing it. Too many times people simply want to get on a camera and play games with their friends and think that they're going to make money doing it. And it's not the case. It's not. This is a business. Sports entertainment, gaming entertainment, streamer entertainment, videography, any of it is a business. And until you begin to look at it that way, what you put into the marketplace is not going to be consumed and purchased, and no attention is going to come your way. But when you make that switch and you say, yes, I love this. However, I tell people that you should be putting out a minimum of 10 pieces of content a day across all platforms that you can do it on. And when you get really good, and I'm going to show on this national and world tour, that you can put out 50 to 100 pieces of content in a day. And by pure, volume, you begin to get attention. The more attention you gain, the more opportunity comes and the more money that comes with that. Because if no one's watching you, even if, I want to be the best player, in the world, I want to make a professional team. And I would tell people, well, who knows about you? I don't care if you're an immortal level in Valorant. If no one knows you exist, then no one even has an opportunity to bring you in or give you an opportunity to make money. So you have to build brand, you have to produce content, and you have to treat it like a business. All right, I saw a couple of other questions pop up, Janae.
Yeah, let's see. Dr. Q's got one more. Moving forward, what do you see as some of the opportunities for collaboration between esports and colleges in like a broad sense? Like, how do you think community colleges can get into esports?
I think in a very simple way, that's a really long answer, and I've done a lot of content on that in depth. Let me just say this: focus on the community benefits of it in terms of college. In other words, there's an entire segment of people that otherwise may not attend college and pursue some kind of career through the educational process because they are introverts and wallflowers, or they're not comfortable in groups and classes are hard. There's been study after study after study in high schools and colleges as well, but most of them done in high school, where grades improve, social behaviors improve, and so many things across the boards rise when there's an esports club or community. So I would say 100% get things started in some way that begins to collect and bind those people. And then as it grows, you know, you've got UC Irvine that's a full nationally competitive esports program. You've got UTA's esports program. You've got full esports programs, but that's another level. Those that come with, you know, as part of the athletic departments and they have scholarships. But I would say at the most grassroots fundamental level, get them going, even if it's at a club point, to start bringing in people that can develop social skills, can develop interaction abilities, and a love and passion for a community that's tied into an opportunity for education. So I encourage everyone to do it in any way. Just get it started, and people will begin to come in, and it will do nothing but, you know, benefit enrollment, engagement, and grades, and everything down the road. Just my opinion.
No, that's great. Thank you. I think, Dr. Q, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have an esports club at least on campus, do we not? Yep, Gamers United. So for everybody participating, anybody interested in joining, look up Gamers United, or you could email Dr. Q and he can help you with that. Tracy asks, can you share about any new or forthcoming partnerships that you have in the works with other businesses, institutions, or organizations in the DFW area? As in, should we be on the lookout for new things to come?
I guess I'd ask new things to come from me, or new things coming in just the area in terms of gaming and esports. Because I'm kind of chuckling behind the scenes of things I know that are happening.
Tracy, I don't know if you want to elaborate on your question a little bit.
Sure, no problem. Sorry, I was talking and then I just decided to unmute my microphone. From you or from your organization, Delta V Esports?
Okay. Okay. I would say that there were a lot of things that were being worked on, but COVID restrictions and a lot of the concerns around, you know, gathering and opportunities just continues to shelve things. And so to answer that, the reason I'm kind of chuckling is that the reason I decided to do this tour, this national tour, and to drive around the country and then go international, is because I can do that in a controlled environment, in a way that allows me to engage and build and connect with people and opportunities and relationships through this travel that will open up everything. I mean, by the end of this, my plan would be to have so many relationships and so much experience with people and so much of a following that I can turn that back to what we want to do at Delta V, and bring that development process with those connections with a clear end objective of how you can take advantage of it, because of the relationships, because of the experience, because of the content we've created. The chuckle part of it is, when you talk about collaborations, I'm working right now on the website for our sponsorship. We have a GoFundMe page. We have, I'm working on all the details of people that want to sponsor. So the reason I was chuckling is, when you're talking about collaborations, I'll be putting out I'll be contacting everyone in the DFW area about being able to be a sponsor, potentially being a sponsor for this tour. But so yeah, I think that collaborations are still difficult, but I think that this tour is one of those things that allows me to collaborate with a lot of people in a way that when things do more open, we're going to be able to just go full steam ahead at bringing people in and moving them and helping them develop the skills and talents to take advantage of opportunities that we've made connections with and people that we collaborate with, and be able to do that in a very, very quick way when things come back to relative normal.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any, first thing, for everybody participating, there is a link in the chat for you to be able to review this session. I know I've got at least 2 of my students in here for extra credit. So if you want that extra credit, you do need to evaluate using the link that was posted. Any other lingering questions, since we've got about 5-ish minutes left of Rob's time? Elena says she's here and my 14-year-old brother's here with me. He's enjoying gaming and is very interested in esports. He's wondering what the first steps would be in joining a team and eventually going pro.
Well, I speak very frankly about this element. And I speak very frankly this way. The 14 is a great age. Let me give you kind of a background on that. 2 years ago, Booga won the Fortnite World Championship, made $3 million for winning, and he was 15 at the time. Now at 16 or 17, I just saw an interview with him a few months ago, and he said, look, I'm kind of middle-aged in the esports competitive world. And so my clarity with people that want to be a professional player is, number one, it is the hardest way to make a living in gaming and esports. If you are 20 and you've never been in a competitive environment or on a team already in a high amateur level, you're going to have an almost impossible time of making a professional team. It can happen, and I get a lot of, well, but I can do anything. No, here's the reason. The top League of Legends player in DFW that we know of is 9 years old. And that gives you an idea. If I own a professional sports team, esports team, I'm looking at young players because they can start so young. And then I'm saying, okay, well, once they mature and get to an age like 14 or 15, kind of get into the high school years, they become, we're able to work with them from a social standpoint, a maturity standpoint, put them in a competitive environment, because the grinds of playing on a professional team are misunderstood by a lot of people. You're talking about a professional team practices 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's an incredibly difficult thing to be good at, because the skill level has to be so high. Now, all of that being said, can it be done? Yes, 100%. If you're 14 years old, and depending on the game that you play, you want to make it in a competitive environment, the number one thing you have to do is go back to the equation. If you saw that I put out in the beginning, sit with your family and understand how much time you actually have available when you meet your requirements and you meet your expectations to be able to train, and then put a plan in place. That plan would be something like, I need to practice this many hours, not just play, but I need to practice very specific skills. Get onto a team of some kind if you can, begin to get into casual or recreational tournaments. And then here's my most important key. As you're developing these skills and building relationships, you must build your brand. You must be able to create content that shows what you're doing, not just playing games, who you are, because the other side of the business of esports is for people to recognize that skills are critical. That's a baseline. You have to be able to perform to be able to win championships at a certain level. But you also have to be marketable. That becomes more and more important, because you're going to have press conferences and interviews, and you have to be entertaining. People want to be able to see you. It's one of the biggest struggles, and engage with you in a positive way. When you have no brand, and and you only have skills, and you're only competing on that side, then that makes it even tougher. So develop your skills, get on a team as fast as you can of some kind, get into tournament play, but start putting out content that shows who you are, what you're doing, why. Take people on the journey. If you're practicing for 4 hours a day, do a Snapchat, do a Twitter feed, do a tweet, do an Instagram or a TikTok that says, hey, I'm working on this skill set today, just want to keep you guys updated. So it's that combination. Work on your skills, get into some competitive play, but start building a brand so people know who you are as you increase in your skills.
How would they be able to find competitive opportunities to potentially join a tournament or get into a team?
Yeah, really easy. Just search tournament play. There are all kinds of tournament platforms depending on the game. There are literally thousands of tournaments going on all of the time. So just search tournaments for your game, whatever the game is, and you'll get all kinds of results. And then there's tons of free tournaments. Just start getting into competitive play and getting into the community of competitive players. Connect with them, DM them. If you're playing, League of Legends, and you want to be like a great League of Legends, the DM Faker every day until someone responds, or just start to push your way into that environment as you're developing skills. And then remember, what they're going to look at is your portfolio of success. And you want to show them, hey, I did these 25 tournaments this year and I placed this way. I'm at this level. I'm moving forward. Even if you don't have the total maximized skills at this point at 14, show that you're making an advancement and a progression towards a high level of skill, and it will it'll make all the difference.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Is this up? This session will be available. It's being recorded and it will be posted so that you guys can re-watch it. Let's see. We're about out of time, but I see one. Oh no, that's not a question. So awesome. I think we're good. Rob, thank you so much for bestowing your knowledge on us.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you, guys. Listen, all of you can reach out to me on any of everything is Street Talk Leader, all the socials. You can go to my Discord and DM me if you have more questions, if you have more, things you want to discuss. If you want to actually meet at the stadium at some time before we leave on the tour, I'll get you together with my assistant. But it has been a pleasure. Anytime that I can advance this community and everything we're doing. And a big shout out to Q and all of you, everyone that's been moving this within TCC's community and these events about gaming and esports. Hats off. You have all of my support forever.